Hi, everyone. It's an interesting time. We're starting to see some decrease in numbers, and it couldn't be better in terms of weather in New York City these past 2 days. The rain is clearing and people are starting to come out. Hopefully, we're practicing social distance, and over time, hopefully, that phrase will become a distant memory. But we're not quite there. It's going to be a stepwise and a staged process to get back to normalcy. At this time, I'm going to start to transition some of these videos to instruct our athletes at home on ways in which they can remain engaged, exercises they might be able to do. One of my partners, Natasha Desai, was on the front lines when this all started as an emergency room physician. She took care of quite a few sick people, and she's going to join us today. She's also a former Division I UCLA gymnast, and she's going to give us some perspective on ways in which to keep your head in the game and possibly some strategies so that you can remain motivated at home so that when it is time for competition, we can hit the ground running. And so she's going to join us, as well as Amanda Till, who's a former competitive dancer and now physical therapist in our group who takes care of our athletes as well. So the first thing we'll do is just hopefully bring you some good news. And Natasha's going to give us a very quick update. So what's happening in the world of emergency medicine these days?
Now we're seeing the volumes going down. The acuity is still a little high. In the hospital, there's still a lot of sick patients, but definitely it's all trending down and in the right direction.
That's great news. It's, we always hear about the number of admissions and the number of sick people, but at NYP, we also discharged several thousand people and they recovered completely. Is
Over
that true?
5,000, yeah.
Yeah. So on an emotional level, Natasha, if you could put yourself back, a few years and you're a competitive gymnast and just kind of imagining what that athlete is going through.
I've seen some really great things that Columbia Athletics has done. They've given their seniors like a platform on social media to talk about their experience, to kind of highlight their career thus far, to kind of talk about what they have achieved rather than what they missed. Those things are really valuable, and I'm sure that they create memories, which is really what you rely on later in life, right? Like, is the memories of the sport. And then there's the people who are going to go back to their sport, but they're going to have to cope with, especially something like gymnastics. It's a year-round sport. What it takes to get to the next level is constant training, building muscle memory, decreasing fear. There's a lot to hurdle, and being away from the sport. I remember even when I was a gymnast, I had a hard time taking a vacation because I was always afraid of that muscle memory or the fear kind of creeping back in. So it is something that they're going to have to get creative with, really utilize visualization, working through their routines in their head, doing as much dance through, things like that at home, and kind of connecting with their coaches via virtually that way and kind of getting feedback. I think it's a really good time for people to branch out from their sport that they might be really focused in on and kind of build on the skills that they're weaker on. Like,
When you competed at UCLA, what things did you do to remain mentally engaged in your sport?
yeah, so I had a big injury in my junior year of high school, and it took me out probably for about 6 months. Going through your routine in your brain and kind of feeling those muscles tighten and activate as you're going through the routine is really key. Visualization has been proven as a great technique in all sports to help increase the reps that your body actually does get. Other is staying as engaged with your teammates. I would go to every practice, even though I couldn't necessarily participate. Staying very connected kept me motivated.
Maybe a Zoom meeting like this is a good way for them to interact, as a good analogy to what you experienced when you were injured.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like a challenge amongst the team, and posting that on a social media or a YouTube or a Zoom chat or something like that. Taking pictures in certain skills, or try to make it fun. And two things that gymnasts constantly need are flexibility and strength, right? Flexibility realm. I try to get them to be balanced, and they have one side that they are very flexible on and another side that they might not be as flexible on. So it's a good time to work on balance. Usually gymnasts tend to be stronger in their quads. And so it's a good time to start balancing that out with hamstring strengthening and kind of my overall theme in recovery is this is your time to even out all the things. Yeah, so the first thing I would say is that we're going to get through this. We could really use this time to improve on the areas of weakness that sometimes we ignore. So if you have a shyness in dancing or some areas that are less flexible, this is really the time that you can use to develop those skills and really build on the foundations of your strength and flexibility. And this is the time to visualize and solidify the skills that you already have. It's not the time to try to learn new ones, unfortunately, but we will get back to the sport, and hopefully your foundations will be a lot stronger.
So using this opportunity to maybe get some rest and focus on some foundational skills is a great message. Thank you, Dr. Desai.
No problem. Thank you.
Amanda, you're working with athletes at home, and I've seen a lot of the challenges on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter where groups of teams, athletes are challenging one another to various foundational exercises. And I say foundational because I think that's where we can really meet athletes at home.
Yeah, so again, going back to what Dr. Desai said, it definitely depends. Everyone has their weaknesses and imbalances and, their strengths. So a lot of what I do, again, for flexibility and, like she said, tight hip flexors, I like to do square splits, which is a really, really good one for, ballerinas, dancers, gymnasts. So I like to use a wall. What you're going to do is put your lower leg, your shin against the wall. So your knee is all the way up against it. And then you'll take your other legs. So kind of like a lunge. I say square. What that means is you want to square off your hips. So think of, I always say, like 2 light bulbs kind of on the front of your hip bones here. You want them both to be facing forward. So you really have to push that. If, it's your left leg back, you got to really push your left hip forward. You can do that. So you want to squeeze that left glute. You really want to push that left hip forward and keep that core tight too, because we all know that one hip flexor, your psoas, it attaches up at your spine. So if you're kind of just letting everything hang out, it's going to pull at your back and arch. So you really want to squeeze that glute. That's kind of the beginning thing I show. It's nice if you have yoga blocks too. But once you get used to that, you can start to extend the front leg to get the hamstring in the front. And then slowly you can start sliding down as far as you can without opening up that hip.
Square splits are excellent for building flexibility in the hips and getting that squareness that you just demonstrated. That's awesome. Do you have another exercise that people can do at home who are focused on dance or gymnastics that they might not normally focus on?
Let me see. Okay, so yeah, what I have here is a TheraBand. So here, what I'm showing is it's anchored this way, and we're gonna face, one side. So what's happening is, as I'm bringing this out and as I start doing a heel raise, my ankle's going to want to go in. We call it sickling in dance and gymnastics, but it's really ankle inversion. We don't want that to happen. We want a neutral ankle. So as we kind of pull with the band, we're working our everters here. So what you'll do is just single leg heel raise with the band on. So either if you want to put your foot, like in coupe, we call it, or up in passe, it's up to you. And here, all you're doing is just going up and down. And then once you
your focus there is stabilizing the lateral ankle. You should feel that along the outside from the knee to the outside of the ankle.
Exactly. Yep, you'll feel that there and in the main calf muscle too. And then you'll just switch opposite. So now what's happening is it's going to want to pull you into eversion, or we call it winging in dance. But you don't want to over rotate, over the big toe. You want to keep the ankle neutral again. So here, up and down.
And so with the band attached to the outside of the ankle and pulling inward, you're now working the calf muscle from the inside of the knee down toward the medial ankle. And those muscles are stabilizing the foot and the ankle complex and are really the true foundation where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. Yep, you got it.
All right, cool. You have another exercise you'd like to do?
Of like 5 exercises in one, but you do all of them all the way through without stopping, and then you take a little rest. So many of you probably already know this one. They're clamshells, which is really good, just opening up that knee. And the main thing with all these exercises is you're keeping the core tight and you're keeping your hips stacked. You don't want that top hip to roll back at all. So here you do about 10 of each. So here, and then the next one I call it an open clamshell. It's just with abduction. So here, same thing, clamshell. You kind of keep your foot as a pivot point. You should start to feel the muscles burning right on the outside of your glute. And then you have a straight leg raise. Back a little bit. Goes up in a little bit to the diagonal. So here, 10. And then here, you're doing little circles while it's up and in that back diagonal. So 10 clockwise, 10 counterclockwise. And again, the hips aren't moving back and forth, they're staying nice and still. And after 10 of each, then you can take a little rest and feel the burn.
So with those glute foundation exercises that you just demonstrated, is it possible to also engage some core? Maybe if you add a side plank to that or something?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that was my other exercise that I was going to show. So really actually working in that side plank, and you can do anything. I mean, I have a lot of my patients start to do like passe, we call it, up like this. So it's really good at working on the trunk stability on the side while you start doing some dynamic movements as well.
And the goal there is to maintain sort of like that very still center, very isometric contraction from the top down to the pelvis. Am I right?
Yep, you are exactly right.
Excellent, excellent. Those are great foundational exercises. You've got 4 there that you could build into your daily program. Anyone can do this, not just dancers and gymnasts, but for our elite athletes. Now's the time to focus on the things that you know you've been neglecting while you're at the gym trying to perfect a skill or trying to polish up a dance move and then get ready for a competition. We know the pressure is always on for that next competition, but right now we have time on our side. So if there's a silver lining, it's that we get a little bit of rest and a little opportunity to redevelop our core, redevelop some of our foundational skills. Thank you so much, Amanda. This was really helpful.
Because, yeah, honestly, I think this is a great time for, athletes just to kind of go back to the basics and, lay that foundation down. So then when they get back, they, can have better technique and everything.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks.